Hello, my name is Ryan Loofborough. I'm the CEO for Sacramento Steps Forward. And we're a nonprofit here in Sacramento, California, dedicated to ending homelessness through collaboration, innovation, and connecting our clients with the services they need to gain stability within the housing market. But we can't do this on our own. This is something that we as a community need to work together towards. And so we've developed this training module so that you might be able to come alongside our best efforts and ending homelessness together. The very name of our training is what we're looking for. So in just a moment, you're going to get to see three amazing people that I'm really fortunate to have work for me right now. We call them navigators. They work every day with individuals and families experiencing homelessness. And they're going to talk to us about how to build trust, how to make sure that you're safe and also our clients are safe. And then about how do we push the needle forward? How do we get families and individuals stable and into stable living environments? I hope you enjoy this training session. I look forward to seeing the outcomes and the creativity that happens in our community and in yours. Thank you very much.
Yes, so my name is Adhere. I'm a navigator here at Sacramento Steps Forward at Sutter Medical Center, Sacramento. Also, I am a grad student at USC getting my MSW for policy advocacy, actually. My job, I think the most rewarding aspect of this job is being able to assist someone to achieve whatever goals that they have, because everybody's goals is different. And so what I always tell my clients is I'm a bridge. Bridge is just connect and support. I'm not here to make any decisions for you. I'm not here to do anything for you. I'm just going to simply point you in the right direction and support you as you do that. And so I think that's really rewarding to be able to empower people to utilize their self-agency again, people that have been disenfranchised. Yeah. Just because you don't just open up to a stranger, regardless of if they are a helping person or not, you just don't forthcome with everything, right? You kind of are a little bit reserved. And so I think that's typical for any human being. And I think that is the most important part to recognize in this work is that these are human beings. They're not helpless, homeless people. They're human beings. And so, no, they're not going to just immediately just give everything to you. And so sometimes it takes going in a couple times. If I know it's an inpatient that'll be there for about a week, I go in every day that week that I'm at the hospital and check in and say, hey, how you doing? The more that I go in, the more that relationship starts to build. And so that's typically how I do it. Yeah, I don't push because like I said, these are humans, right? And so sometimes we tend to go into it like, I need to help. You need to take my help. Right? Because you are homeless, so you need to take my help. But that's not the nature of this job, right? And so what I do is there is no real way to know if somebody's ready to talk unless they talk, right? And so because something that we also learned is in one of the trainings that we took as navigators, we were able to take a mediation training, and we learned that sometimes people present their emotions differently. Right? And so I might smile a lot when I'm ready to talk. Some people, when they're ready to talk, they may clam up a little bit. And so I can't take their nonverbal cues as a cue that they want to talk. All I can do is say, are you ready to talk today? And if they say yeah, then they say yeah, and we commence the conversation. But yeah, I can't just judge it off of how they're acting. It'll have to be they affirm me asking them, do they want to talk? Yeah. Some people will just tell you everything because they want you to hurry up and get them housing, right? And so they want you to know everything that you need to know to get them housing. However, there's still this notion that they have to withhold information from us pertaining to their various conditions or barriers just because they think that will be a barrier to housing. And so I would say about 3 to 4 visits before I know everything that I need to know. I won't know everything, of course, but everything that I need to know as far as what barriers they're facing, as far as mental health or physical health or anything else along that spectrum. It takes a while to kind of build that so that they can know. But the person experiencing homelessness has to trust me, because they are telling me personal, sensitive information. Sometimes they do have to delve into really painful things that they don't want to talk about, because maybe the eviction is tied to a really tumultuous relationship. Maybe the eviction is tied to something else. Maybe they were, okay, so there's this one lady, right, and she lives on the street, but it's because she was traumatized in her home. Her whole house burned down and all of her family members died in that house fire, right? And so she needs a lot of hand-holding. She needs a lot of support in being able to even think about going into housing, right? And so just telling that story, she has to trust me with that information. And I think that's something that we can't take for granted, is that people are allowing us to hear the intimate parts of their lives. You know, it's so important to us to just keep that in mind, that this is something that is very deeply ingrained in who they are and their experience. And so, yeah, we can't take that lightly, that they're sharing that with us. Honesty is, again, so key. So honesty and trust, I think they go hand in hand, right? And so we have to be honest, because we would want someone to be honest with us if the shoe was on the other feet. I think when we get into the superwoman mode and we just want to say things to make them feel good and give them hope, that we tend to tread this line of, I'm just gonna maybe tell you something that sounds good, but maybe isn't all the way true. And it's not any malice attached to it. It's not lying to deceive someone, but it is to try to make the situation seemingly better, at least in my experience. And so I would say, just be honest. People respect you so much more when they're honest. And when they're, in my experience, when they're not extremely happy with you in the beginning, they will eventually come along. And if not, then, you know, someone else can help that person. That's something else that I learned, is that you can't help everybody. I can't help everybody. A quote that the social worker at Sutter Medical Center told me is, I can only do what I can do, right? And so I'm honest, I'm letting you know what it is. This is what we can do. This is a service that I can provide. Some people are like, yeah, that's cool. Really gracious about everything. And some people are like, you are not who I want to work with. And that's okay. That's okay. At least we had an honest interaction and we can move forward with that information, instead of me selling a dream that won't come true and then they're really upset with me and, you know, the organization for that matter. Listening non-judgmentally is so key, because it helps us to build a trust relationship, right? So if I'm judgmental while you're telling me the reasons as to why you believe you're homeless or whatever, we've built a relationship now, and you're telling me about your interaction with your friend, and I'm judging you and I'm saying, well, why would you do that? And all of this stuff, you're going to shut down. You're going to shut down. And that's the last thing that we want in a relationship like this. We don't want any of the parties to shut down, you know, the helper or the person being helped. We don't want either of them to shut down, because then it just becomes fruitless, you know, an exercise in futility almost, because if they don't want to share things with you, if they can't even tell you a story about their night they had last night, why would they tell you some things that may pertain to their homelessness, you know? And so it's just very key to keep that in mind, that regardless of how you feel and your experience culturally or just whatever the case may be, you can have your preferences and you can decide not to make those same choices, but ultimately that's their life and that's what they choose to do, but they've chosen to share that with you. And so just appreciate that they trusted you enough to share it with you. Yeah. We as human beings need a choice. Oftentimes we as the helper, we have this paternalistic approach. I know what's best, right? I'm trying to help you. I'm not homeless. You are. You need my help. And that's not what it is. We don't know what this person needs. We don't know what's best for them. As much as we want to, as much as we think taking this housing option or doing this program or doing X, Y, and Z is the best, as much as we think that. If that's not what the client thinks, then it's not going to work. So, because then we have to factor in recidivism, right? We have to factor in maybe relapse. We have to factor in so many things. When it's not what the person chooses to do, there are inherent barriers in a forced decision, right? And so we just have to consider that would I want someone talking to me like that and telling me what to do just because I, in their eyes, have made a poor decision? And so, yeah, just remembering that these are mostly adults for the most part, and they are fully capable of making whatever decision they have to make to live the life that will make them comfortable, right? And we're just here to support them in that. And so, yeah. And so there was a situation, a client who was really dear to my heart, actually. He was one of my first clients, and he had a lot of barriers, a lot of barriers. And one of them was if he was not compliant with his health plan for his condition that he had, he was going to expire. There was no ifs, ands, buts about it. Even while at Sutter Medical Center, he would want to go out, leave AMA, which is against medical advice, because he was frustrated. Who wants to be in the hospital for weeks? Nobody. But just understanding that this is life or death right now. And so having that conversation with him, because it wasn't a family member or a close friend, it was a little tough, right? Because I kind of just had to rip the Band-Aid off. It was like, either we go into this housing option that we have right now, and it's your choice. We can stay here, do the skilled nursing facility after that, do all the rehabilitating we have to do, and then move to the next step, which is this temporary housing option for you that has wraparound services. That'll be really good for you. Or we can continue to do things the way that they've been done and see where that gets us. And I left it completely up to him. But I had to just be raw, and it was hard. But I had to, because I cared about him, and I just seen so much potential in him, right? And so sometimes we see things in others that they maybe can't see. And so I saw that in him, and I was like, we got to get it together. What are we going to do, right? And I said we because I was going to go along with him. If he wanted to go back to his previous lifestyle, okay, how can I support you while you're doing that, right? Or we can take plan B, right? And he did. He's doing okay now. He's doing okay, and so that makes me feel good. Just to be a part of that, just to be able to support him, because that's really all that I did. I said, these are our options. What are we gonna do? And he made the better choice. So yeah. Remembering that we're all equals. We all got the same insides and all that good stuff, and so that's what I would do. As a volunteer, is just maintaining humanity in all this. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Michael Degner. I am a navigator for Sacramento Steps Forward. I'm assigned to the Central Library downtown. I've been located at the Central Library downtown for about a year and a half. An ordained pastor in the Lutheran tradition. I was ordained in 1978 in Colorado. And then I've done a number of things in the helping world. I was a hospital chaplain for 12 years in a hospital in Colorado. And in 1990, I made a career change and ran nursing homes. I was the chief administrator of nursing homes in Colorado, Wyoming, and California here for roughly 24 years. So I've had experience being the top dog, and I'm now delightfully and pleasantly a worker bee in what I do. The library itself is a community agency dedicated to the promotion of the public good. And certainly moving from homelessness to appropriate housing is in the public interest. I think that's a very good question. That, of course, the answer to that question is subjective. What I might consider dangerous, somebody else might not consider dangerous. I think it's important to recognize that when any human being experiences something that's unfamiliar, they're going to feel fear. And it's only natural when you're experiencing somebody that is behaving in a way that's unfamiliar to you or you're unaccustomed to, your natural response is going to be fear. And you'll interpret that person as dangerous, when in reality they're really not. And in fact, most people experiencing homelessness, either due to a mental illness or a substance abuse issue, are not dangerous. But it really behooves the helper. It's important for the person offering help to become familiar with the range of behaviors that they're going to experience. And as that familiarity grows, the fear associated with unfamiliarity will dissipate. Once that dissipates, my recommendation would be to trust your gut. Your gut will tell you if somebody poses a danger or a risk to your safety. But it's important, again, to separate what is fear as a response to a lack of familiarity, a new behavior from another human being, from a truly dangerous situation. What I do when I feel a situation might be getting out of control, I look towards the security guard or the librarian at the desk who is in communication with me non-verbally for assistance. And those persons, it's like having a second person with me, but not right attached. That person will come and intervene or help to dissipate the intensity of the situation. If I'm anywhere and feel that my safety is at risk, I'll ask for help. And that's what one should do, is seek the assistance of another human being. I think it's always helpful to be working in a team approach. For one thing, two people observing a person's behavior and responses gives you at least twice the amount of information on how to process it and understand it. From a safety standpoint, if things do escalate because that person is not getting the information they want or not getting the response from you that they desire, or for whatever reason, there's safety in numbers, and having a person with you can help dissipate the anxiety that is being aroused in the other person. I've often asked myself, what constitutes a helping relationship? A helping relationship is in some ways difficult to define. Some people may define it as giving something to somebody, like a sandwich or a housing voucher or a bus token. That helps to an extent, but it's really not helping the individual to progress in their life. There needs to be a boundary of where my needs stop and the other person's needs are recognized and responded to. If I'm only responding to my need to be needed, my need to be helpful, then I'm really not meeting the other person at all. I'm only meeting a mirror image of myself. So there needs to be a very clear boundary of what's me and what's thee. What's me and what's you. There's a term that is used in my discipline, and the term is compassionate detachment. You can be compassionate to care with and to care for another human being, but you need to maintain a distance, a detachment that precludes handing out money, taking people home, doing things for somebody else. If you do something for another human being, you're more likely to create dependency on that other person towards you or towards a system or towards an institution. And creating dependencies is not really helping people. Because after all, don't we want to create or help a person to become autonomous and independent and on their own feet, able to make their own decisions and able to chart their own course in life to the extent that they're able, not becoming dependent on any other systems or institutions or individuals like myself. That would be a travesty. That's the reverse of helping somebody. Yeah, again, if my need to be needed takes the foreground, then I'm not really meeting the other person. One of the most difficult things I've done in this role is leave a mother and a father and 3 children on the street after 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. I saw them again Saturday, and for many, many days subsequent to that evening when I had to leave them on the street, but every stone was unturned and there was nothing more available. And they survived. They did okay. Not only did they do okay, but after a few weeks, they were able to obtain what they needed because things came together. It took time, but I needed to separate, to trust that it was going to work out, and it did. It did through the care and compassion of other people besides myself. I'm not the only one on this planet that cares about people, and neither is anybody else. We live in a network of people who care for other people, and we survive by the care of a whole network, visible and invisible, of caring people. So it's not just me. It can't be just me. That family survived for weeks, even two and a half months, until the forces came together and they got what they needed. So it's not only okay, it's healthy to leave and to separate and to live your own life and find your own joy, not in helping others, but your own joy that's unique to you in living your life. Having an understanding and a recognition of where your caring limits are is vitally important. I know, just to take it in a day, there comes a point, in some days it comes sooner than other days, where I've reached my limit. And I know it. I know it because of what's happening inside of me. I become aware that I'm really not tuning in. I'm more tuning out. I'll find myself thinking, what did that person just say? And my mind is going elsewhere. It's because I'm saturated, I'm full. And it's at that point that I need to establish a boundary with that person and say, I'm terribly sorry. There's nothing wrong with doing this. It's establishing a genuine boundary. I'm sorry, but I'm just not able to focus right now. Is there any way you could come back and we could talk and carry this conversation on tomorrow? And we work that out. Or I ask for a break and maybe take a walk and get air. So those times come when you've just had enough of the stories that weigh on your mind and on your heart. I think it's highly important that as people caring about others, not caring for, but caring about others, that we take care of ourselves. We can't take care of anybody or care about others if we're not caring for ourselves. That's vitally important. And as I've mentioned, it's important to understand that I is not thee and thee is not I. I have my own history, I have my own needs, I have my own fears, my own anxieties, which are different from yours. And if I am going to be at all of any kind of assistance to you, I need to recognize the uniqueness of who you are.
My name is John Barrett. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. Grew up there, lived there all my life. Came out to California for recovery. I had a lifelong problem with alcohol. I'm actually an alcoholic, so I came out here to get some help. I had gotten to a point where I really needed to make a change. Went through a wonderful program out here. I was successful, and I got back to work. At that time, I didn't know that I'd ever work again. Oh, I love being a navigator. You know, in the beginning, it all seemed so overwhelming. There's so much to learn, and there's still so much to learn. I feel like I only know just like a very small portion of it. So every day is very exciting. I learn new things. I love being with people, and I actually do love being a helper. Hope? Yeah, hope or inspiring hope. Building a relationship with somebody in need, somebody that's you know, possibly homeless. Absolutely. Creating a little bit of joy in a person's life, if you know, for only for a few minutes, and then rekindling it day to day and working on goals with that person. You have to be a good listener, you know, to have this job. So I try to do that. I try to give people as much space as they need and time to really explain to me what they need, you know, and in so doing so, we become just a little bit more close. We develop a relationship. First thing we do is we sit down and I basically just ask them, you know, what's up? What's going on? I smile. I think almost every time people instantly realize that I'm non-threatening, you know, that I'm going to be easy to be around. So we start talking, and they kind of give me a snapshot of what's going on with them. Are they homeless on the street? Are they possibly couch surfing, you know, moving from place to place to keep from being homeless? You know, so we talk about these things. We find out I find out what's going on with them. And then over time we develop a relationship. You know, all this doesn't take place necessarily in the first meeting. And we begin to identify some of the things they're going to need to move forward and ultimately become stably housed. Well, resources are short, but there are resources. There are a lot of resources out there, and we have a lot of different things to pick from. And it all depends on the need of the individual person. Some people really need permanent supportive housing. And through our company, we can refer people to that. There's not a ton of it, there's not enough of it, but it's there. And it happens for a lot of people where they will be supported, will be stably housed at a very small cost or no cost. You know, so there's that road that some people are able to go down. Then of course there are shelters. The shelters are full, but you know, they're available. They're there. People will get in. We'll help you get in. It doesn't always happen overnight. When it can't happen overnight, there's still things to be done. Some people are in crisis. There are respite centers that we're able to link people to, get them to, so that they can get through a period of crisis. Let's see. Beyond that, a lot of it is assessment to see where a person really is and what might be the best avenue for him. A lot of people that we work through have SSI income, and we find that because there's not enough housing, sometimes we can find other solutions. One of them might be room and board where you have housing and you also have your food, your meals and that sort of thing. That's a solution. Some people need to really just restart their lives like I did when I came out to California. So sometimes we're able to refer people to programs, long-term programs where they're essentially instantly stably housed in a program, which can last for a year. And during that time, they'll be moving towards within the program housing, income, and health care, all the things they need. Well, there are actually people like that. In fact, I have a young man that I'm working with right now who falls into that situation. But again, there's still hope, because I think the thing of it is we have to be persistent and tenacious. We have to network amongst ourselves. We have to find out about resources that we may not know personally ourselves. It seems like there's always an answer for each person. It can't happen as quickly as we'd like it to, but it does happen. There is a really good resource guide. We have one on our website, on Sacramento Steps Forward's website. And persistence is the key. Absolutely. I mean, in all this stuff, whether it be addiction, straight up homelessness, mental health, unfortunately people, they do need people, not unfortunately or fortunately, they need people like me or people out in the community that can connect with people. The resource guide on its own, it's great, but it has to be used. So we try to empower them, we try to encourage them. There's no judgment in what we do, and that's a wonderful thing too. I know in my own life I wasn't judged and I was empowered. I was taken to a place where I could care for myself. So that's part of what we do. Some people need more help, some people need less. So the idea is to find a balance, not to do everything for them. Some people, they're going to need to be taken to the DMV or Social Security office and walk through the process. They could have a language barrier. They could have, perhaps some mental illness that's a barrier, those sorts of things. So we pretty much try to provide the amount of care that's needed. Well, this might be too deep, but what I would say is one of my own goals is to be less selfish in life. And I think if you reach out and help people in the community through your church, that sort of thing, it's going to help you to do that, because you're going to find that there's joy in helping people and there's joy in being unselfish. I think for a lot of us, we get so involved in our own lives and we're so focused on ourselves that we miss out on the joy of helping others. And that's a big thing. So I think you're going to love this work. I think it's going to be rewarding.
I want to thank you so much for joining us for this training. I will tell you that when I saw this for the first time, I was really amazed at the quality of individual, the knowledge that they have about working with people. And I hope that has maybe impacted you in a similar way. It also has inspired me simply as an administrator to step out and to be reinvigorated about the work that we do and the work that I hope that you're going to join us in. So we will continue these types of training sessions and give you learning opportunities. Up in the corner, there is a circle with the house in the middle. If you click on that and subscribe to our training program, we'll make sure that the modules forthcoming will be available to you. Thank you very much.